Hi, welcome to our vlog.
Welcome to our vlog.
And today we're going to be talking about how challenging it can be to not get reactive when your partner gets reactive, and what actually can be helpful, if not in the moment, but afterwards, especially for helping the repair.
I think historically, that's something that I've really struggled with, to not get reactive in the face of your reactivity. But I'm getting better.
Yes.
Yes.
And we can all recognize that this is probably something that we're going to be on the learning curve for the rest of our lives, and that any forward movement on that learning curve is a good thing. It's not about perfection.
Without doubt.
And so we'll talk about a recent incident that happened between us where I became reactive based on an email that you sent me. I was in England. My father passed recently, and so I was there. And we had had a communication regarding how I didn't want you sending me work emails. And then you sent me a second email that was of work nature. And in that moment, I had a reaction. I felt angry. And it looked, on the surface, you would say, well, that email is causing me to feel angry. It's causing me to feel hurt, because clearly I looked at it and then I felt a certain way. In the moment, that's even what it looked like to me. But upon reflection and being able to recognize where experience actually comes from, I can see that that email didn't have any impact on me until I made meaning up about it. And so what I was really feeling was all of the meaning that I was making up about Angus sending me the email. And I felt like you weren't supportive, I felt unloved, I felt that you weren't understanding. So there was all of this thinking that I had that was very painful. And none of that was in the email, but that was where my experience was coming from. It was because I was identifying with all of those limiting beliefs, all of those misunderstandings, and my emotional response was a reaction to them. And out of my reactivity, I then wrote an email back to Angus that had all of that emotional energy on it, and you had your own experience related to that. Now, we ended up talking about this when I got back from London, and things got heated, and then we had to sort of take a break, settle down, and then we came back to the conversation the next day, and we were able to work things out. But I think for both of us, what was really helpful in terms of working things out was being able to recognize what the real source of our suffering was.
Yeah, and I try to remind myself every step of the way when these things happen that this is an inside job. And it's the times where that's just not in my consciousness that I generally get caught up. And it is a case, and it feels like it's almost like this auto download, this trauma download, some echo from the past, something that's telling me that I am unloved in this situation. I'm unloved by you. This is why you're treating me the way that you are. Completely not the case at all, and yet I can go there. But that sort of moment where I will suddenly have a sense, this is an inside job. This is nothing to do with Rohini. That is so helpful to me, because it allows me to take a beat, and hopefully I get some perspective. Not always, but more often than not that I do.
Yeah, and we eventually get there. So we also want to encourage you to be patient with yourselves. It doesn't mean that you're going to see it in the heat of the moment. It might take some time, like we're saying with ourselves. Even though we both recognize that our feelings come from inside of ourselves, it took us, a night's sleep before we're able to have a productive conversation the next day and really, come back together and feel the love we have for each other, and really see the psychological innocence in ourselves and in, you, my partner. And so that experience for me, being able to recognize that Angus's email did not cause my experience, gives me freedom. It means that I am not a victim to what he does or doesn't do. What I can be a victim to is the misunderstandings that I have in my own consciousness. But then I know what I'm up against. And the more that I look outside of myself to try and feel better, the more I look to try and change him or to try and have him behave in a different way in order to make myself feel better, I'm looking in a direction that's not going to be productive. But the more I understand that really what's at stake when I'm feeling that way is I'm just really gripped by my own misunderstandings about myself that are incredibly painful, that were formed when I was young, that tell me that I'm not good enough, tell me that I'm not lovable. And it doesn't matter that they're not true. When I'm gripped by them, when I'm identifying with them, I feel the weight of them. I feel the impact of them. And it's not until I'm able to see them for what they are that real healing can happen. And so that's why we're really focusing on helping you recognize in your relationship that your experience is a reflection of the thinking that you're identifying with. Now, this doesn't mean that your partner always behaves kindly. It doesn't mean that your partner doesn't make mistakes. It doesn't mean that there might not be boundaries that need to be set, or even relationships ended if people can't be safe in their relationship with each other. But it doesn't take away from the truth that our experience still comes from within us, and our freedom lies in recognizing that we don't need to identify with those thoughts that are misunderstandings in our own consciousness.
Yeah, well, that's very well said. I don't know if I can add anything else to that other than to say that I know that it can feel so compelling, that it's so easy to get caught up in that old narrative. Sometimes I feel like it's a possession. It's almost like there's a character that's embedded in that narrative that has evolved over the years, that maybe has got more sophisticated, actually maybe more Neanderthal, actually. And yet to see that it is just a character that's associated with that narrative makes it easier for me to disassociate myself from that and hopefully find some higher ground.
Yeah. And so the healing really is available for us. The benefit of doing that healing is that our relationship benefits as a result of that, and that we can come together and have easier conversations when we recognize what was really going on. And then we can also look at what the logistical things are that are needed. Maybe there is something practical that would be helpful in the relationship, and that can be agreed upon or discussed. But those kind of logistical conversations are so straightforward when the weight of our misunderstandings isn't placed on them. And so we really encourage you to take care of yourselves first, to meet yourselves with love and compassion. And often all that is needed is to be with the feelings that are arising when you get caught up in those misunderstandings. Often we've never had someone be there for us and hold a loving space for us when we're caught up in that kind of emotional suffering. So when we can do that for ourselves, so much healing unfolds. And in that healing, the misunderstandings get clarified, and we see what is true, we see what is real. And in that place, we recognize that we're lovable, that we're worthy, that we're good enough, and we can see what was really at play from a more neutral, clear place.
My name is Angus Ross, and I thoroughly endorse this message.
Well, thank you. We hope you enjoy it. Please feel free to leave any comments below.
Take care.